All right, let's dive into this, huh? Stephen King's It. I mean, there's a reason this book is still giving people nightmares all these years later.
Yeah.
What is it about this story that just grabs hold and doesn't let go?
Well, for one thing, it really tapped into something that I think was brewing under the surface back in the 80s, when it came out.
Yeah.
This idea that things weren't so, picture perfect in suburbia, like something dark was lurking beneath.
Right, right. And it's not just the story itself, it's where it takes place, right?
Oh,
Derry,
yeah.
Maine,
Oh, absolutely.
not just some random town. We actually have some excerpts here from this book, Derry, An Unauthorized History of the Town.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you, it gets pretty unsettling.
Oh, yeah. The history of Derry, it's practically a horror story in itself.
Yeah.
When you look at it, the cyclical nature of violence in Derry's history it's striking.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, this book mentions specific events, right?
Yeah.
Like the Black Spot Fire
Oh, right, right.
and the Bradley Gang Massacre. But it's not just those isolated incidents. There's this constant undercurrent of unsolved disappearances, murders. It's like the town itself is, feeding this cycle of horror.
So Derry isn't just the setting, it's like almost another character in the story.
Absolutely. You could even say it's the main antagonist in a way.
Wow. And that kind of feeds into how the book is structured, too.
Oh, for sure.
Jumping back and forth between the Losers Club as kids in the 50s and then as adults in the 80s.
Right.
Why do you think King chose to tell the story that way?
Well, the dual timelines are really key to the whole thing, I think, to understanding the themes of memory and trauma. Because King isn't just trying to scare you.
Right.
He's showing how the past can, haunt the present. What happens to you as a kid, especially those really, traumatic experiences, can shape who you become even as an adult.
So, even if you think you've escaped something, it's still there under the surface.
Exactly. It's always there, lurking.
Okay, so let's talk about these kids, right? The heart of the story, this group, the Losers Club.
Yeah, yeah.
They're outcasts,
Yeah.
right? And they find strength in, their shared experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But who are they, each of them? What makes them so relatable, even all these years later?
Well, you've got Bill Denbrough, right?
Yeah.
The natural leader of the group. But he's driven by this guilt and this grief over losing his younger brother, Georgie.
Right at the beginnings. That sets everything in motion.
Right. And then there's Beverly Marsh. She faces abuse at home, but she shows incredible resilience.
Tough as nails.
And Richie Tozier, the class clown, always cracking jokes, but, under the surface, he's masking his own insecurities.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, you can't forget Eddie Kasprick.
Right.
Struggling with his health, both real and imagined illnesses. Ben Hanscom, finding comfort in books, secretly in love with Beverly.
Oh, yeah. And then Stan Uris, right?
Yeah, Stan.
A skeptical one.
Yeah.
Always trying to make sense of things. And Mike Hanlon,
Right.
who carries, a different kind of weight on his shoulders as the only black kid in the group, especially in Derry with its history.
Absolutely. Each of them represents, I think, different aspects of what it's like to be a kid, that vulnerability, those challenges of growing up. But it's their bond, their loyalty to each other that allows them to face their fears, both individually and as a group.
So speaking of fear, we can't talk about it without talking about, right, Pennywise the Dancing Clown. I mean, this shape-shifting entity that takes on the form of each loser's deepest fear.
Yeah.
What do you make of that, this idea of fear taking a physical form?
Well, it's a brilliant way for King to, externalize those internal struggles that his characters are going through.
Yeah.
For instance, Ben, he's bullied for his weight, right?
Uh-huh.
He encounters a terrifying mummy.
Makes sense.
Richie, always trying to lighten the mood, he sees a werewolf, a creature associated with, those hidden urges.
Right.
And then you have Eddie, the hypochondriac. He confronts a leper, representing disease and decay.
So it's like their individual anxieties, their fears, they become these monstrous figures.
Exactly. And I think what's so terrifying about Pennywise is that he doesn't just embody fear, he feeds on it. He targets the most vulnerable children and exploits their anxieties.
It's like he's saying that our fears, especially those we have as kids, they have real power. And if we don't confront them, they can consume us. So the loser's victory over Pennywise is even more meaningful when you think of it that way.
Exactly. It becomes a story about facing your inner demons as much as battling an external monster. And each loser carries deep scars, often from adults who should have protected them.
Like Beverly's experience is especially heartbreaking. First, the abuse from her father, then the terrifying relationship with her husband, Tom Rogan. It's like a cycle of trauma she can't escape.
You're right, King doesn't shy away from depicting that darkness. He shows how trauma can shape our choices, how we can even be drawn to situations that echo past pain, like Beverly's attraction to Tom.
But what's so powerful is how she ultimately breaks free. The Losers Club becomes the family she never had, showing how supportive friendships can be a lifeline in the face of such trauma. And this idea of a clown as the ultimate horror. What do you think King is getting at there?
Well, you think about clowns, they're supposed to be symbols of fun and laughter, right? But there's often something unsettling about them, especially to children. King taps into that unease, that sense of something being not quite right, and twists it into something truly terrifying.
Yeah, you're right. It's that subversion of expectations, right? The
Yeah.
familiar becoming monstrous. That's what makes Pennywise so effective. It's like he's saying that the things we think we know, the things we trust, can be turned against us.
Their love for each other, it's almost like a weapon against it.
Yeah,
You know? I remember that final confrontation in the sewers?
Oh,
They
yeah.
literally draw strength from their bond, their shared memory,
Yep.
their belief in each other.
It's like that connection. It's like it taps into something, I don't
It
know.
really does.
A power, like, bigger than themselves, a
Absolutely.
force that even it can't fully, like, comprehend or defeat.
Yeah, and King manages to blend that, that almost supernatural element with
Right.
these really human, relatable struggles.
Yeah, it's not all, like, doom and gloom, though, right?
No, definitely not.
He also brings in the humor, especially through Richie.
Oh, Richie, yeah.
Like, even in those really tense, scary moments, he's always got a joke.
Oh, always.
But it's not just comic relief, is it?
No, not at all.
I mean, Richie's constant jokes, it's like a defense mechanism,
For sure.
a way to cope with the fear and the vulnerability.
Yeah, it makes you realize that even in the darkest situations, you need those moments of laughter, right?
Yeah.
Those glimmers of light.
It's like a reminder that they're still just kids
Exactly.
trying to navigate this terrifying world.
And that brings us to it as a coming-of-age story, right?
Oh, yeah.
The losers, they experience this really profound loss of innocence. As they're confronting these horrors in Derry,
Yeah.
it's a theme that you see in a lot of King's work, this idea that childhood is, it's precious, but it's also fragile.
You see it in how the losers, like, they struggle to reconcile their adult lives with those childhood memories.
Yeah, like they've tried to move on, but the past has a way of catching up with you, doesn't it?
It always does.
King illustrates how trauma can linger,
Yeah.
It shapes our perceptions or relationships, and it's only by confronting those buried memories, acknowledging the pain,
Uh-huh.
that the losers can really begin to heal.
So their return to Derry, it becomes like a journey of remembering.
Exactly.
A way to finally break free from that cycle of terror.
Yeah, the cycle that's haunted them and the town itself for so long.
There's something, I don't know, really empowering about that.
Definitely. It suggests that we're not defined by our past,
Wow.
that we have the power to, reclaim our stories.
And Mike Hanlon,
Yeah.
he stayed in Derry. He embodies that idea of confronting history, doesn't he?
Absolutely. He becomes like the keeper of Derry's memories,
Yeah.
both good and bad.
Right.
He's the one who really understands those patterns of violence
Yeah.
and helps the losers to understand the true nature of the evil they're facing.
And being the only black member of the group,
Right.
Mike experiences a different layer of fear and prejudice.
Absolutely.
Like, King subtly weaves those themes into the narrative, reminding us that the monsters aren't always, supernatural.
Right.
Sometimes they're human.
Yeah, human hatred, bigotry.
And that can be just as damaging, just as scary.
For sure, leaving scars on individuals and communities.
So the fight against that kind of evil,
Yeah,
it's just as important as the battle against Pennywise.
couldn't agree more. And King never lets us forget that.
But even with all the darkness, he also emphasizes the power of hope
Oh,
and
absolutely.
connection, right?
Yes.
The losers bond, their willingness to fight for each other. It's like a beacon of light in all that darkness.
It really is.
It reminds us that even in the most challenging times, we can choose love over hate,
Yes.
connection over isolation.
It's a choice that defines who we are,
Right.
individually and collectively.
Speaking of choices, I'm curious about King's use of flashbacks and
Yeah.
shifting perspectives.
Uh-huh.
Why do you think he structured the novel that way?
I think it's a way to immerse the reader in that disorientation
Okay.
that comes with trauma.
Right.
We experience the story through this fractured lens,
Yeah.
piecing together memories alongside the losers,
Right.
never quite sure what's real or imagined.
That makes sense. It adds to the suspense, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That feeling that you're constantly on edge,
Yeah,
never knowing what to expect.
like you're right there in Derry, feeling that unsettling atmosphere.
Exactly. King's a master at creating that sense of dread.
He really is.
And even when the losers think they've won, there's this lingering feeling
Oh,
that the evil hasn't truly been vanquished,
right.
that it could like resurface at any moment.
That lingering fear is so effective.
That's like a shadow that follows them,
Oh,
a reminder that the past is never truly gone,
yeah.
and that we all have those inner demons to confront.
It's a pretty unsettling thought, but also a powerful one, I think.
Yeah.
Pushes us to examine our own darkness.
You're right. It's a reminder that the fight against evil, both within and outside ourselves,
Uh-huh.
it's ongoing.
It's a choice we make every day.
Right.
To choose light over darkness, to believe in hope and connection.
And King's writing style, it reinforces that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. His
Yeah.
language is so visceral, so evocative.
It really is. He doesn't shy away from graphic descriptions.
No, he doesn't.
But he also captures the beauty and wonder of childhood.
Yeah.
Like the barrens, their hangouts.
Barons, right.
It becomes this symbolic space.
It's interesting how the barons represent both freedom and fear, right? It's a place where the losers can be themselves, away from the judgment of adults, but it's also where they're most vulnerable to.
Right.
It's almost like a microcosm of childhood itself, isn't it?
That's a great point. Yeah.
The barons are this testing ground for the losers,
Uh-huh.
where their bonds are forged
Yeah.
and their fears are confronted.
It's where they prepare for that ultimate battle against the darkness at the heart of Derry.
And speaking of King's language,
Yeah.
one of the most chilling scenes for me is when Beverly's trapped in her bathroom,
Oh, yeah.
hearing those voices from the drain.
Oh, so creepy.
That's psychological horror at its finest.
The way he describes the blood seeping from the drain,
Oh,
turning the water red.
yeah, so visceral, so disturbing.
Like he's showing how the horror can invade even the most mundane everyday spaces.
And it reinforces that idea that nowhere is truly safe. That the monsters we fear can find us anywhere.
Especially unsettling for younger readers,
Well, for sure.
who are just beginning to realize that the world isn't always what it seems.
Right.
Speaking of monsters, we have to talk about Pennywise being a clown.
Oh, yeah. Pennywise.
It's so brilliant, but so creepy.
It really is.
I mean, clowns are supposed to be fun, right?
yeah.
But there's often something unsettling about them.
Especially for kids, I think it's an uncanny valley effect.
Okay.
Something looks almost human,
Right.
but not quite.
Uh-huh.
And it triggers this primal sense of unease.
Yeah, King taps into that fear of the familiar turned monstrous,
Absolutely.
showing how even the things we trust can be, twisted into something terrifying.
It's like he's saying that darkness can lurk anywhere,
Yeah,
even in the most innocent of forms.
like a clown.
Pennywise embodies the corruption of childhood joy,
Right.
preying on kids' vulnerabilities and fears.
He's like the ultimate perversion of everything pure and good,
He really is.
which I guess is what makes him such a compelling villain.
Ab-
And the losers struggle against him.
Yeah.
It becomes this epic battle between good and evil,
Mm-hmm.
reminding us that we all have that potential
Right.
for both light and darkness within us.
For sure.
It's interesting how King uses Derry itself as like a microcosm for society.
Oh, yeah.
The town secrets, the cyclical violence.
Huh.
It's like it reflects the darkness that exists in the world,
Absolutely. Like he's saying that history repeats itself
Right.
unless we actively choose to break the cycle.
Derry isn't just a backdrop.
Yeah.
It's a character in the story.
With its own dark history and secrets.
And the town's willingness to just turn a blind eye
Yeah.
to the suffering of others. It's
Right.
it
Yeah.
reflects those same forces at play in the wider world.
Absolutely. It's a sobering thought, but it's also a call to action, I think.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we have a responsibility to fight against injustice
Right.
and to create a world where everyone feels safe and valued.
Just like the Losers Club.
Yeah.
We have to confront the darkness and fight for the light.
Even when it feels like all hope is lost.
Absolutely. But let's not forget the beauty and hope that King weaves into the narrative too.
Oh, for sure.
The loser's friendship, it's a constant source of light, right? A
Yes.
testament to the enduring power of love and connection.
Yeah, even in the face of unimaginable darkness.
And there are moments of pure joy and wonder,
There are.
like when Beverly teaches the boys how to use the slingshot.
Yeah, or when they're building their clubhouse in the Barrens.
Right, those moments, they remind us that even in the darkest of times, there's still beauty and wonder to be found.
Absolutely. And King's skill as a writer really shines in those moments.
Yeah.
He balances the horror with those glimmers of hope,
Right.
reminding us that even though we may lose our innocence as we grow older, we don't have to lose our hearts.
We can still choose to believe in the power of good, the importance of friendship,
Yeah.
the possibility of creating a better world.
And his use of symbolism also adds to the story's depth.
Oh, absolutely, like water, for instance.
Water, yeah.
It plays a really interesting role.
It represents both life and death,
Uh-huh.
purity and corruption.
Right.
Think about that opening scene with
Yeah.
Georgie's paper boat
Uh-huh.
being swept into the gutter,
Right.
leading him to Pennywise.
Yeah.
Innocent play turned into something horrifying.
And later, when the losers are in the sewers,
Yeah.
they're literally immersed in the town's filth and secrets.
It's like water becomes this conduit for the darkness that's festering beneath the surface.
But remember that scene where they swim in the quarry
Oh, yeah.
after their first encounter with it?
Right.
It's like a moment of cleansing,
Cleansing,
a
renewal.
brief escape from the horrors.
Yeah, it highlights that duality of water as a symbol.
It's amazing how much King packs into this one novel.
It really is.
It's a horror story, a coming-of-age tale, a meditation on good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
He explores memory, belief,
Yeah.
the power of facing our fears.
And he does it in a way that's both terrifying and captivating.
It really is.
It's a world that stays with you
Yeah.
long after you finish the book.
It's a reminder that the monsters we face, both internal and external,
Right.
they can only be defeated by confronting them head on.
Absolutely. And that we don't have to do it alone.
Right.
The Losers Club reminds us that we can find strength and support in each other,
Yeah.
in those who love and care about us.
Speaking of facing our fears, I've always been intrigued by the ritual of Chud,
The Ritual of Chud, yeah.
that ancient ritual the losers use to confront it.
Uh-huh.
What do you make of that? It always felt like such a leap into, I don't know, the mystical, the supernatural.
Yeah.
Like King was saying, there are these forces beyond our understanding that we have to, like, contend with.
It definitely introduces this element of, I don't know, ancient wisdom, like primal energy.
Yeah.
It's described as a battle of wills, right? A psychic confrontation between the losers and it suggests that, you know, belief itself can be a powerful weapon, especially against something like Pennywise that thrives on fear and doubt.
So it's not enough to just, like, fight him physically.
No.
You have to believe you can win.
You have to, yeah, it's like they're tapping into this collective consciousness, you know?
Yeah.
This shared belief in good that allows them to overcome its chaos.
It's not just about brute force.
No.
Physical strength.
Right? They have to use their wits, their imagination, and their unwavering belief in each other.
Yeah, to perform the ritual successfully.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful weapons aren't, you know, tangible things. They're these intangible forces, hope, love, the will to survive.
It's like King is saying that we have to fight darkness on its own terms.
Yeah.
Sometimes by, you know, embracing the unknown,
Right.
trusting in something bigger than ourselves.
And it circles back to that theme of confronting our fears, right?
Right.
The losers can't defeat it by running away or
Yeah.
ignoring it.
They have to go right into the heart of it.
Yeah. You have to face it head on,
Yeah.
delve into the darkness, and ultimately choose to believe in the
Travel.
power of light to overcome it.
It's amazing how he blends all these different layers of horror.
He really is.
You know, the psychological, the visceral, the supernatural.
It's a testament to his skill as a storyteller, you know?
Right.
It's not just a scary story.
Right.
It's this multi-layered exploration of what it means to be human.
Yeah, he goes into those darkest corners,
He does.
but then he also reminds us of, you know, the strength
Resilience.
of the human spirit.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
You know, from the cultural context of it to the symbolism, the characters, the themes that make this such a powerful and enduring story.
And I think one of the most important takeaways is that it offers hope.
Yeah.
Yes, it's about facing our fears, confronting the darkness,
Uh-huh.
but it's also about the power of friendship, love, the belief that we can overcome even the most terrifying challenges.
It's a reminder that we're not alone in our struggles,
Absolutely.
and that even when things seem hopeless, there's always the possibility of finding light and connection.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So I think that's about it for our deep dives into the world of Stephen King's.
Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully this is giving you a new perspective on this, iconic horror novel.
Maybe even inspired you to revisit it.
Yeah, uncover new layers of meaning.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Remember, the power to overcome our fears, it lies within each of us.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is a little courage, a lot of heart.
And that unwavering belief that the light will always find a way to shine through the darkness.